All right. Another follow-up, feel free to stay connected with our chapter, sign up for Bevy, and join as a chapter member. We love having you, and it's the best way for you to stay connected with our chapter and any events that we put together. There's a couple upcoming opportunities from Adobe. They are looking for some MUG member feedback. The Adobe advocacy team is collecting feedback from MUG members on the benefit they have experienced as a result of attending and participating in user groups. To contribute your experience, you can scan this QR code right here. The deck will also be sent at a later date. So you can click on this link right here and it'll take you to the form. These testimonials will be used to encourage new members to join our user group community. So we thank you for your participation in helping us grow this amazing program. Another announcement, the Skill Exchange goes to New York City. If you're interested in engaging with other Adobe Marketo Engage user group members, Adobe is doing a live Skill Exchange event on November 9th for this free learning event. Feel free to scan that if you're interested, if you're in the New York area on November 9th. You can learn Marketo Engage best practices from our expert users. Like I said, November 9th, here's the location at the Convene at 225 Liberty Street, New York. And here's the schedule. If you have any questions, just reach out to Shea Kowalski at this email address down here. And lastly, registration is live and space is limited. And for any of you who are new to Marketo, or if you know people who are new to Marketo, there's a new free course. This course is designed to provide a foundational understanding of Marketo Engage. By the end of the course, you will learn how to create, manage, and measure the success of your first marketing program. Lessons in this course include educational content from best practices, how-to tutorial videos, and expert tips and tricks. I can actually vouch for this one. I just started training somebody new in Marketo, and I had him go through this course, and he said he really liked it. So I definitely recommend. Share your Marketo Engage feedback. You can receive a $25 gift card via Trust Radius. This link will also be in the deck. So feel free to access that later or use the QR code. And that's it for housekeeping. Let's get right into the main event, which is your newsletter process with program tokens. My name is Jack Siebert, and I'm the Senior Marketing Automation Specialist at TreviPay. And yeah, I just wanted to have some sort of meeting this October. We took a break in September, and now we're back. And I really thought that I created a pretty decent newsletter process that really helped us speed up our newsletter campaigns, and I wanted to kind of share that with the whole group. So first of all, we'll kind of go into inherited tokens versus local tokens and program setup. We'll go straight into designing a tokenized newsletter, updating your tokens with API calls, some final tips and tricks that I learned that might not fit into one of these topics. And then if we have time, we'll try and do some knowledge share and any questions that you all might have. All right, let's get straight into inherited tokens and program setup. So at TreviPay, this is kind of a glimpse into what our Center of Excellence looks like. The way that we built our program templates we do email program templates and a newsletter program template. You can see right here. There we go. So I have this like newsletter template right here, and then I have my email blast program. And the reason why I do that is because my email blasts don't need the tokenization that my newsletters do, because my newsletters always follow a standard set of rules, and that's just the way that we like to do our newsletters. But our email blasts are a little bit more freeform, more flexible. They both use the same channel, but they have different flow steps and program tokens. This is purely built so that my marketing team can do easier cloning jobs. More of a use case, at my company, we have 5 different newsletters that we send out per industry. They all follow the same design philosophy, but they all contain different things based on our segmentation with industries. So we usually include 1 to 2 large stories that usually consists of ebooks or webinar announcements or event announcements. Then you have 2 smaller little sections for blog posts, and then a section wrapping up the end of the newsletter that just talks about our company in the news. And something that I really had to think about when I was designing the newsletter program, the program tokens, is what is going to change per industry newsletter? What is going to stay the same? You need to think about what you might want to fine tune per industry newsletter and what you might want to keep the same across all of your newsletter campaigns. So I thought about that, and that's how I kind of decided which of my tokens were going to be local and which ones were going to be inherited. So for anybody that might not be familiar with inherited program tokens versus local tokens are the tokens that you build inside your program. So if you see here, I have this overarching NW 2023 10/16 Trevi Pay October newsletter. That is where all of my tokens that I build are going to be used across all newsletters. Basically, they're going to stay the same. In this case, it is that in the news section that I was just talking about, because I don't really update that per industry. We don't just have that use case yet. But for my main story, my blog post, I do want to customize that per industry segment. So I'm going to build that in there. And then that way they roll up in my nested program as inherited tokens, while the tokens in each of these stay very unique and local.
I have a question. Am I allowed to ask questions, or is that?
Yes, you're totally allowed to ask questions.
So then the inherited tokens, no, the local token. Wait, sorry.
No,
the local tokens are for like the overarching program, and then the inherited are the ones for the ones that are specific to industry, or is it
opposite way? So your local token, so they're all technically local to a program. It's just a matter of how you nest your program. So up here at the top, I have that brown overarching program, and then I have my nested email programs. I have local tokens in this brown overarching program that roll into here because this will inherit the tokens from here. You can override these tokens, and we're going to do a demo, so you'll be able to see it in action. But the tokens in your nested email program will gain these inherited tokens because they're nested in this program. The local tokens in here are all of those unique tokens specifically for that industry newsletter. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Like I said, the nested newsletter send program will pull in your overarching tokens for your tokens that may not need to be changed per industry newsletter. I just have a picture of my center of excellence up here again. This is one example of what inherited tokens may look like in your program. This is an exact example of my October newsletter that I put together. So you can see here all of those local tokens for each of my email send programs, and then the inherited tokens that were pulled from this brown default program that is nesting all of my email programs. It sounds a little intense, but we're about to go into a quick demo. I'm going to be switching a lot between screens, so please bear with me as I have an awkward little transition. And I'm going to be switching between instances as well. So that makes it even more awkward, but I promise I'll be as smooth as possible. I'm going to stop sharing again. I'm going to reshare window. And now we're in the Marketo instance. So I'm going to go into my test program. Here's my newsletter program that I was just talking about. So I want to make a newsletter, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to think about what features are going to exist across all of my newsletters. So I'm thinking all of my newsletters are going to have the same month, of course, and then say they're all going to have the same main story. That's a very important thing to me. So I'm going to say main story, Casey mug goes viral. I want to also add a body text. So I'm going to do main story, body text. we'll just do some fake text right there. And then I'm also going to add some rich text because I want to be able to maybe bold it. Maybe I want to do something that I can't do with just a regular text token. All right, so I have my main story tokens. Now I'm going to go into my newsletter program. Head over to my tokens again. And then you can see here that it's inheriting all of those tokens that are in this overarching email program. I didn't show you exactly how you nest it, but what you do is you just right click it, put new email program, and then it'll nest right in there. That is the only way you can nest email programs inside of a program in my experience. I can't drag and drop it in there. So just be cognizant of that when you're building out your newsletter template. Moving on, I'm going to quickly make a second story. So I want one story to be my main story to be across all of my newsletters. I want to create another story. So I'm going to say segmented story. And then we'll say October Halloween event goes great. I don't have a whole lot of creativity today. We'll have a segmented story. Body text. And I'm just gonna mash my keyboard. All right. Let's say I want to do some rich text here too, because I want to do the same thing where I'm doing the same body text, but I want it to look different in my HTML. So I want to make it red. Don't know why. All right, so I have my local tokens, I have my inherited tokens, and then I'm going to open up my newsletter and build from there. But that's the next part of this presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing again and reshare the PowerPoint so we can get a little bit of background before we start to design our tokenized newsletter.
I have a question. Is there ever a point where you think like tokens just make it like too complicated versus just putting it into like the email itself?
Yeah, there definitely is times where it can be a little complicated in my experience, but there's some benefits to tokenizing certain templates that may just be more rigid, and I'll explain that later. It helps you kind of maintain a good structure, especially when there's a lot of people working in your Marketo instance. If there's a lot of people making newsletters and you really want it to stay a certain way, you can lock that down and just have people edit the tokens. It also really helps your text-based versions, just in terms of formatting. We do monthly newsletters, so we don't like to go in and like edit our text versions. And I'll show you what that looks like at the end of this presentation, but those are just a few reasons why I personally like to tokenize my newsletters. Great question. All right, back to designing your tokenized newsletter. So you'll want to host your tokenized newsletter somewhere easy to access in your instance. You could do that inside the newsletter program itself, and you could just have your users clone from the newsletter program, and they'll always have a new email ready for them. The pros means it's less cloning work, but it's at the expense of not having a go-to place to find all of your email templates. The way I like to build my instance was I like to have my own email template folder. So you can see right here is that I have a couple base email templates that all of my marketing users can use. So we have a generic email, we got a generic event email, and then I have my newsletter template. Regardless of the way that you do it, I definitely recommend building it inside of your email template with all of your tokens, so you can access your tokens pretty easily with that token editor, and then cloning it into an email template if you decide that you want to go the route of having all of your email templates in one easy to locate area. And then, like I said, the way that I do it is I put mine in my email template folder. It's easy to reference for other projects, but it requires you to visit the Center of Excellence twice to clone. So there's pros and cons to each. It's just kind of how you decide that you want to build your instance. Yeah. So now we'll get to work on our tokenized newsletter. Some things to note when you're building out a newsletter, just any email templates. Definitely make tokens for your headline, your subheadline, your CTA button, your links. Just make it as easy as possible for you, and make sure that you're considering what would make sense as an inherited token and what would make sense as a local token. And keep in mind, you can always override your inherited tokens to make them local tokens. So there's just a lot of power that Marketo can do. Also, we'll go over this in a bit, but make sure you always use your token. You don't include the HTTPS protocol in your tokens. I'll explain that at the end. But for now, let's get back to a demo. I'm gonna stop sharing again. Sorry about all the back and forth, everybody. All right, can everybody see my instance again?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Okay, so I went ahead and I already created my asset in my newsletter program. I'm going to go in and edit the draft. I'm going to clear out my tabs so it's easier to navigate. So here's my newsletter blank template. I'm going to go in, say this is your main story, go in, insert your tokens, and these will always be my.tokens. So
I think we're seeing the wrong tab.
oh, you definitely are. You definitely are. Share this tab instead. There we go. All right. I'm sorry about that. Thank you. So here's my Marketo editor, the one that we all know. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to use this as I want this to be my headline. So I'm going to go use my my.token, my main story. And it's as easy as that. And that's why I suggest really building your email template in here, because it makes it easy for you to reference all of your my.tokens with the token editor. Let's say I want to change this to be like a month area. Obviously, this isn't going to be a very pretty newsletter, but I'm going to put my newsletter month. And then Marketo is going to pull this in as I start to build out my newsletter program. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. And then you just clone, build it however you want. I'm going to duplicate here because I want to have my secondary story that we were talking about earlier. Trying to go somewhat quickly so I'm not going over time and I have time for us to ask questions and knowledge share. So this is my second story that was going to be that segmented story, like I said. And then, of course, I want to update my body text. So it's easy as this, right? It's very innovative with the Marketo text editor, the Marketo token tool. Easy as pulling it in like that. You could also add CTAs for your button text. I'll show you an example of what I did for my company in a minute. You can add your links. You could even use tokens in your images. Possibilities really are endless with Marketo. It's pretty awesome.
How do you use tokens in the images?
I will show that at the end of this. I actually have a slide for it. But it really is just as simple as using a text token. And then, so you do like my dot image file. And then you would take the image token, the text token, and then you just put in your Design Studio URL into your, so if we're going to do this, like I said, like you're not supposed to add the HTTPS protocol, but because it's only for link tracking, and I'll explain this at the end of this presentation as well, it's really no big deal, but you would just add a text token, call it my image file, and then put in your Design Studio URL here. And then that would auto-populate here when you send your newsletter program. It won't show up here, which is a drawback, and that's why I don't use it in my newsletters, because I like to see what it looks like. But if there's a certain use case for it, we use it in a lot of our autoresponder stuff that's like very templated and a little less image heavy than these are. So there's pros and cons to both. Great question, though. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Again, I'm actually going to switch to my company's instance. I'm just going to show everybody what my tokenized newsletter looks like. All right, share screen again. Share. All right, can everybody see my company's newsletter template right now?
Yes.
So like I said here, I don't change my images with the text-based token. I actually just have that image URL. But I do have like my main story. I have my blogs, my descriptions for those. I have my in the news sections all tokenized out. I even have like button text. So for my CTA buttons, I have that automatically pulled in as tokens. And then those button links, like I mentioned, you can see there, I know it might be small, but I have that HTTPS on the outside of my token to make sure that my token gets the link tracking. And then I have my main story link. So really anything that I could tokenize, I did. And then we're going to go over this in a sec at the end of this presentation, but I went and I edited my text version so it always retains the same what's the word? It always retains the same layout. So if anybody's all too familiar with this, when you automatically copy from HTML, it can get kind of clunky. I really like it to look a certain way, so that's why I keep it like this. And then no matter what, even when I change the text, it always pulls it in from the token, which is my personal favorite feature of tokens in your emails, because I just think it can get a little bit tedious of a process going in and pressing enter and changing the layout a little bit. So that's a little sneak peek of what at least I use tokens for my day-to-day. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again, and then we're going to move back to the presentation for our last main section of this presentation. I'm going to share my entire screen so I don't mess up the tab thing again. So lastly, you can actually update your program tokens with API calls if you're familiar with any API functionality. You can use a Marketo REST API and an API tool like Postman to do the following requests with your tokens. So you can get all of your tokens by your folder ID. You can create token and you can delete your tokens by name using the REST API. The post call create token does create a token, but it will also update your token if there's already an existing token. pretty simple stuff. If you ever have any interest in learning about API, I took a great class from the Workflow Pro, Tyron Pretorius. I can't recommend him enough. It's not self-promotion because it's not me, but I definitely recommend it if anybody's interested. Jordan is having trouble seeing the screen. Can anybody else see my screen? Oh, perfect. Sorry, Jordan. Do you need me to repeat anything? Did you miss anything? Okay, awesome. Cool. Okay, well, I am going to share this.
I have a question about the REST API tokens. I worked at Expedia Group a long time ago, and I didn't really know like the back end stuff of like how all of these like things were done across different like lines of businesses or different like lines of businesses. But I guess this would be like a good example of like how they created all of their tokens for all of like the different newsletters across different lines of businesses.
Yeah, I know that you can do some pretty cool stuff with like Python scripts and automation tools and tokens. I'm not that advanced.
Yeah, no, neither am I.
But I do know that if you get pretty deep into your automation,
Yeah.
you can do some crazy things with tokens.
Yeah.
And, that's definitely like a pipe dream of mine down the line. But as of right now, it's definitely not me. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop sharing again. And I'm actually going to show you what an API call looks like with tokens. So, and this is a tough one because there's a lot going on here. So, please bear with me. I'm going to get my authorization token before I share my screen, since that is some sensitive data. We will share my entire screen. And then I have right here by post request, I want to create and update my program token. I have this token called O5 in the news, which if you look here, it's one of my inherited tokens in my instance. So right here, it says Woman in FinTech, the importance of mentorship. I want to change that with the API. So I'm going to change it to Casey Mug goes viral. I can send that. You can see that the success is true. And I am not somebody who can teach anybody about API calls. I am not particularly skilled enough to do that, but I can at least show you what this looks like. So it says success equals true. So if I refresh my page, it should pop up with a new token. So see, now it says Casey Mug goes viral. I didn't use the in Marketo text editor right here. So you can bypass that Marketo UI and go straight through with API calls. So kind of cool stuff. Like we were just talking about, Kevin, there's a lot you can do with automation. But yeah, it can get pretty interesting if you go deeper down the rabbit hole. All right, let me stop sharing one more time and go back to the presentation. Thank you all for bearing with me. I appreciate everyone joining this call. All right, I'm just going to keep it in out of presentation mode for the rest of this presentation. There's not that much left. So like I said, you want to keep your HTTPS / my token. You want to keep that out of your my token, right? It'll mess with your link performance report. It happened to me the first time I used it. I tried to pull a link performance report to see how my performance was for each of my links. and it didn't show me anything because Marketo, for whatever reason, won't recognize just the token as a link. And it needs an HTTPS protocol to, yes, it's only for tokens. If you're going to use a token in a link, just keep it outside of that token. If you're just going to do a link, definitely include that HTTPS. We don't want to break our own links. It's just so that you don't want it to only say my token, right? Like, so when you're putting a link into an image, you don't want to just have this my token. You want to have that HTTPS at the beginning of there, and make sure you don't have your HTTPS in here, or else you're going to have that double HTTPS. It's going to break your link. It happened to me once. So just sharing some words of wisdom so you guys don't have to go through the same issue that I did. Secondly, like we mentioned, formatting your text-based emails is a personal godsend of mine. I love the fact that I can just edit all my text tokens and it just auto populates with the format that I want in my text-based tokens, and I don't have to go in, click automatically copy from HTML, and then fix up that HTML to look good for text-based emails. It saved me a lot of time just with that. And then lastly, like I said, with the Design Studio, you can use a text token that you can put your image URL from Design Studio in, and it'll automatically add that in there. This is great if you have people working in your instance that you don't want to actually go into your template and mess with anything. This is perfect if you have some styling with your image that you might want to keep. Just keeping people as regimented as possible. And like I said, with some API calls, you can really automate all of your newsletters. So
I have a question for the image for tokens for like autoresponders. So you host the image in Design Studio, pull the URL link, and then put it into the token at the program level.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because if you put it at so in this situation, I would make my image file token in my email send program, that nested email send program, because I'm going to, like, for this example right here, I would have a different image for each of my newsletters.
Yes.
But I want to use that local token. But if you were going to use the same one, feel free to use an inherited token.
Okay.
Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, that helps. I was wondering what the process was. So you go into Design Studio, upload the image, get the URL, go back to marketing activities.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And in this situation, you can keep the HTTPS in there, since you're not using, it's not like a link you're tracking. It's just pulling the Design Studio URL.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Does anybody have any experience with tokens in their newsletters that they'd like to share that I may not have talked about? Can you use tokens for UTM tags? For example, google.com/my.UTM. I think so. I think you'd be able to. I'm not sure. I've never tried that. I can do some research and some testing, and I can follow that up in a follow-up email for sure. That's a great question. I feel like you can, but I'm going to write that down right now in a sticky note. And I'll be sure to answer that in the follow-up. Of course, thank you for staying online. We appreciate everybody staying in and talking, and I hope this was a useful presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording right now, but thanks everyone for joining, and we'll let you know when the next KC Mug meeting is.
Thanks so much.